many young people just like you think they're not going to be able to build a life here in Colorado. I'm proud to be endorsed by the IBEW, the union who's calling today, because they understand the economic stakes that are in front of us in this campaign, and I look forward to engaging with this work as we go forward in November. Thank you for having me today.
Thank you all for coming. I am a big believer that our democracy, it's not a spectator sport, it's a team sport. You're here all on the field making an important decision. Which candidate's the right one to lead our state? It's important we get to talk about some of the key differences and approaches that we bring and what's best for Colorado. In terms of what brings me here, it's my life of service. And that life of service is because of how I grew up as a first-generation American. Someone believing this is the land of freedom and opportunity for everyone. I'm here as the child and grandchild of Holocaust survivors liberated by U.S. soldiers who made a decision to come to America and build a life for themselves, to get union jobs and opportunity, and that's what I want for everyone here. And I need your help. I don't have out-of-state billionaires on my team, but I've got all of you. I'm going to go through the caucus process that you learned about today. That's grassroots democracy. Thank you all. Thank you, Chris Davis, for being on the field.
Last year, Governor Polis vetoed the Worker Protection Act. It's been reintroduced this year. Would you be in favor of legislation that eliminates the second election for employee guilds with a party-money majority vote? Senator Bennet.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I've said that I would support a compromise that retained the second vote, but at a lower threshold. I am proud to be the only candidate in this race that's been endorsed by organized labor. I've been endorsed by the IBEW, whose hall we're sitting in today. I have been endorsed by the pipe fitters, who are the neighbors of the IBEW. I have been endorsed by the firefighters, and there's reason for that. I have a 100% voting record with the AFL-CIO in the U.S. Senate, and I expect to bring that record back to Colorado.
Thank you, Senator Bennet. Attorney General Weiser.
I want to start with an important point Senator Bennet just made. He has been endorsed by the firefighters, but you know why? And this is what they said. They said they endorsed Senator Bennet because he doesn't prosecute firefighters. I prosecuted firefighters after the death of Elijah McClain. What I want people to know, and this is a great example, is I'm not afraid to do the right thing when there are political consequences. It is important that leaders lead with their values and fight for what is right. I want you to know about the importance of supporting labor and how it's personal to me. I mentioned when my grandparents got here, they didn't speak the language. They didn't have marketable skills. They didn't have a high school education, but they got union jobs. They got opportunity to lift up, to live the American dream. I believe in the right to organize. And when I'm governor, we will make sure that we do something about this Labor Peace Act, which is antiquated, and replace it with a better opportunity to organize. That might get done this year, but if not, when I'm governor, we'll make sure we get that done. And I want you to know about my record and what grassroots leadership looks like, because when King Soopers wanted to merge with Safeway, a lot of people said, these are billion-dollar companies. Can you do anything about it? And workers came to 19 town halls I held all across Colorado saying, I'm afraid about my job. And I said to them, I've got your back. I went to court and I helped stop that merger. My commitment is to show up, to really listen and fight for what's right, for workers, for consumers, and all Coloradans.
Thank you both so much. On to our second question. With the introduction of AI surveillance companies like Flock Safety, reproductive justice groups, and victim rights organizations, and personal privacy watchdogs have all expressed deep concern over the threat to individuals' rights. Would you support local governments in reviewing or entering into new contracts with AI surveillance companies that have been known to share data with third parties and government organizations such as ICE? We'll start with Senator Bennet.
Do you think we should start with the Attorney General? We started with me the last time. I'm happy to do whatever you like to do, but I've gone first.
Taking the order throughout to answer, you can answer all the same way.
I understand that, but I've answered the last 3 questions first. So I'm happy to do it. I'm happy to do it. Since Phil didn't answer the last question except by insulting organized labor, let me take that on for the first thing, which is there is only one candidate in this race that's been endorsed by organized labor. And the reason the firefighters endorse me is not what Phil said. The reason they endorse me is that we have worked together over the last 16 years to protect this state, among other things, from the wildland fires that we are now dealing with as a result of climate change. That is work that I've been proud to do with them. I've been proud to fight for billions of dollars for our state that is spent all over the state of Colorado to try to help mitigate the danger of this fire caused by climate change. I'm proud of the $4 billion I brought back to our state to fight climate change itself. So that is the reason why. And I will say again, I'm proud to have been endorsed by the IBEW. I'm proud to be endorsed by the pipe fitters and by the firefighters because the economic circumstances that we're facing are so grave as a nation. And we are living in a time where people feel like no matter what they do, no matter how hard they work, the American dream is out of reach between them and their kids. And I don't think this is a race really between me and Phil. I don't think that's the important part of it. I think this is a race on behalf of the families of Colorado and the children of Colorado who are living in a state where the average house now costs $650,000, where a child care costs $20,000 annually. You're right to shake your head because that's as much as a lot of people make annually. It's a place where we cannot afford to live anymore. And if we don't address those challenges, we will never drive a state through Trumpism. Because Donald Trump has been elected over and over again because the American people are losing faith in this economy. They're losing faith in this democracy. I believe Colorado can lead all 50 states on the journey that our nation needs to take. But that's going to start with all of you. It's going to start right here in this room in Colorado.
Let me answer the question. No. No, I don't support surveillance companies sharing information with ICE. And I have some time to now respond to what Senator Bennet said. Jesse Paul, a reporter, is here. He reported on what the firefighters said motivated their endorsement. Look it up. That's what they said. But I want to talk about firefighters because I want to talk about Mariah Washburn. Mariah Washburn works for the Forest Service as a firefighter. She got fired last year by the Agriculture Secretary who had promised to protect her job. She got fired right before fire season. My office got involved in one of the 50 lawsuits we brought against this administration. We got her job back. She went to a town hall we had with other state attorneys general, and she talked about this agriculture secretary who had lied about the promise to protect the Forest Service. At the time, I was troubled because Senator Bennet voted for that agriculture secretary, Brooke Rollins. And subsequent to that time, Brooke Rollins cut SNAP benefits during the pandemic so people would starve as part of some political campaign. I had to go to court to make sure people wouldn't go hungry. And most recently, this same agriculture secretary said to Colorado, you have to certify 100,000 or so people or else you're going to lose all your SNAP benefits in an impossible effort as part of this retribution campaign. I went to court on that too. And literally a week ago, Senator Bennet was asked, what do you think about Brooke Rollins, the agriculture secretary? Are you sorry that you voted for her? He said, no, he's proud of that vote. I don't understand that. I'm glad he's here. Maybe he could explain it, because I don't believe when you're up against a lawless bully, you try to make nice. You stand for what you believe in and you fight for it.
So here, who is our outreach chair and anti-award chair, will be spinning the raffle. All right, we are looking for lucky number 5181-1328. Last numbers are 1328.
Going?
Going.
We're going to call that one gone.
This one's jumping out.
Alrighty, let's try again. All right, we're looking for number 5181-1350.
We have a winner.
Thank you, candidates, so much for being here.
I got a mic for you.
Okay. I'm like, I can project. Thank you, candidates, so much for being here. My name is Bennet. I am a volunteer with Immigrants for Business, running for House 31.
All right.
I am here to ask you, what will you do to ensure that the rights of agricultural workers?
Because in Colorado is a land where everyone knows you matter, you're protected, and you're a part of us. When I think about America, I think about a land whose motto is E pluribus unum. Out of many, we are one. My family's an immigrant story, and one of the first things I've had to do against this lawless bullying administration was to stand up for birthright citizenship. And I'm not going to stop standing up to make sure all immigrants and immigrant workers are treated fairly, and that we in Colorado make sure everyone knows we've got your back and we'll protect you.
In Colorado, across the country and in Colorado, as your governor, I'll continue to champion for you, for the people in Oregon, for everybody who's working there and contributing to our economy. I just want to say that Phil's comment a moment ago about my vote for the Secretary of Agriculture was a lie. He said that I said that I was proud of that vote. That is a lie. I didn't say it. And so much of what Phil often says isn't true. I said that I had voted for that person and that I stood by the vote because of the work that I had been able to do with Democrats and Republicans throughout the western United States to make sure all of us got the fire resources that we needed in what was for Colorado the fourth worst fire season that we have ever had. I don't need a lecture from him about the workers at the Department of Agriculture. I took a firefighter who had been laid off by a forest worker in the Forest Service to the President's State of the Union to reflect the fact that the people on the western slope of Colorado are so critical.
That is time, I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you both so much. We do have one more audience question to draw from.
Why do we need to do this?
Good afternoon. So I'm a first-year student at T-Boulder, and recently the university has come under attack by the government, namely Columbia. So I wanted to ask you what you would do to protect our universities and colleges so that they remain in the freedom of speech.
There's a short response to Johnny's question. Don't be a Columbia. Don't give in to this administration's lawless bullying tactics. Academic freedom means we can teach the whole of American history. And there's a lot of history there that it's hard. It's ugly. The answer? We confront it, honestly. We allow open discourse in an environment where people aren't afraid that what they say could get them deported. This administration's attack on academic freedom, attack on the enterprise that the search for truth and knowledge must remain open, is such an affront to the First Amendment, which is why I'm proud that I've consistently stood with universities defending their rights, with law firms defending their rights, with nonprofits defending their rights. We in Colorado, we can't be afraid. Let me tell you a story about Billy Adams, who's an inspiration to me. Anyone here know who Billy Adams is? But a lot of you know what Adams State is. Adams State in the San Luis Valley is named after Billy Adams. Billy Adams is a former Colorado governor who I draw inspiration from, because he ran to be governor as part of an ongoing effort to fight the Klan, which controlled Colorado in the 1920s. You know what tactic the Klan used in the 1920s? They sought to defund, then it was called Normal School, now we call it Adams State. They wanted to defund the university because they didn't like that Billy Adams was speaking the truth, which is the Klan is dangerous. Billy Adams told his community, let's come together, stand strong for our principles, and fight the Klan. He then ran for governor, won, and pushed the Klan out of Colorado. That's the type of leadership I'm committed to offering as our next governor.
Family, thank you so much for being here. I'm the first vice chair of Eagle County. I've actually been able to see both of you speak before. And I think there's like a growing sentiment among young people that we're very disconnected from the Democratic Party, and that we just don't really see, other than we're the lesser of two evil, what is like our reason of hope to vote for you as candidates? Like, what is a vision that you want to see for the state, for the nation, and a reason for us to have hope?
This time we will start with Senator Bennet.
Thank you so much for being here, and thank you for your question. I'd be surprised if it's not the best question that we get today, because I am.
Why do you keep going over there, though? That's so random.
Yeah.
Can you
Excuse me, it's okay, let's just move on with the forum. Thank you.
I'm sorry, it just bothers me, because it feels like I'm watching Trump and Kamala.
Yes.
Like, I'm feeling, as a black woman, very upset by that. So I
Okay,
just
I just thought
over there, don't think about it, baby, come on. Sorry.
Could we, where is the question? Okay. Thank you very much for the question. I'm sorry, I thought we were speaking from there. I apologize. I'm apologizing if it created any concerns. Thank you. I think that there's every reason for young people to believe that the Democratic Party has let them down, and that we've let you down. And that is certainly how my own children feel about it, and that's how I feel about it. I feel very let down by the National Democratic Party. I don't believe the Democratic Party in Colorado has provided the leadership that we need as well. I think we are living, as I said at the beginning of my comments, in a moment of deep economic unfairness and inequality that has, among other things, yielded Donald Trump as a result of that. And I don't blame Donald Trump for winning the election twice. You know, I blame him for many, many things. But I blame the Democratic Party for losing to Donald Trump. And I think that the hope that I have is you and my own children, and the responsibility I feel to the children that I work for in the Denver Public Schools, and children all over as their superintendent, and children all over rural Colorado whose parents want exactly the same thing for them that the parents in Denver wanted for their kids. And I think working together, we can create an economy that actually works for everybody, not just the people at the very top. Working together, we can create a democracy that works for everybody, not just the people at the very top. We do not have to submit ourselves or subject ourselves to the division and chaos and hatred that Donald Trump represents. I believe Colorado is the answer to those questions. I believe that it is the place that will give hope, not just to Coloradans your age, but to America itself. I think there is a Colorado solution on education, on healthcare, on childcare, on housing, on climate, that we can develop here and deliver for the rest of the country. And that's where I get hope, and that's where I hope you will have hope, and I hope you will join this campaign, because there is no one riding to our rescue. It is all of us that are going to be able to do it. And that's why the stakes are so high in this primary and in this general election.
So America wants fighters, people who meet the moment. And I've shown as Attorney General what that looks like. I mentioned the case bringing justice for Elijah McClain. I've mentioned taking on a supermarket merger. I've taken on corporate landlords, hiking up rents through collusion. We've got work to do. And that work includes making sure that your generation can afford to live here. I moved here when I was your age, and I could look forward to buying a starter home. I could afford childcare. That's not true anymore. I've got plans to address that in our 100-page Colorado blueprint. Check it out at philforcolorado.com. Give us your ideas. And as for your future and opportunity for young people, I'm all in this work. How we improve our education system, address the youth mental health crisis, and create a Colorado Corps calling young people to service. Young people after high school, community college, or college, in law enforcement, in firefighting, in counseling, nursing, and teaching, we need you. We're in this work together. I believe you all have a critical role to play in this moment. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for leaning in. We need you. It'd be an honor to serve you as your next governor.
It's commonly referred to as TATE.
I believe that we have to reform the taxpayer bill of rights, and I think it's essential that we do that. I think our teachers and our kids have been fighting with one hand tied behind their back for all these years, and we should be thinking about the next 25 years of Colorado, and we can't do that unless we reform TATE.
Thank you, Senator Bennet. On January 3rd, Children's Hospital and Denver Health suspended gender-affirming care services for patients below the age of 18, reportedly due to pressure surrounding federal funding. How would you use your seat to protect trans youth by allowing our medical institutions to provide critical health care services without threat of repercussion?
I think we should, first of all, never, ever, ever submit to the kind of repercussions that you were talking about. I was disappointed to hear the governor talk about that yesterday in the context of Tina Peters. I do think it's very important for us to support the needs of trans kids in our state in Colorado, and also the needs of parents of trans kids in Colorado. And as your governor, that's what I would do. I'm the only person in this race who's ever been a school superintendent. By the way, let me just say, in terms of the vote that he mentioned about, because he misrepresented it again. In terms of the vote for the agriculture secretary, I just want to say that, just so you all know, there is literally nothing easier in the world than voting against a Trump nominee on the floor of the U.S. Senate. You know, except for maybe filing or joining someone else's lawsuit that's been filed against Donald Trump and saying that you have filed, against Donald Trump. You know, except for saying that I'm fighting Donald Trump. The reality is we need to deal with the economic disaster that we are confronting as a state. And if you work with me, if you work in this campaign, we will address the housing costs that we need to address. We will address the child care costs that need to be addressed. We will make sure that the kids that are younger than you, that are not getting an education today in Colorado, to prepare them for the economy that they're inheriting, get that in their education. And if we don't do that, we will never be able to recover this country from Donald Trump or from Trumpism. That, again, is what's at stake here, and I just want to say how much I appreciate not just your help in this campaign, but your leadership governing the state. There is no one riding to our rescue. It is all of you that need to provide the leadership at this moment.
Thank you. Our next question.
Thank you.
In recent months, the Trump administration has chosen to make an example of Colorado because of our resistance to unjust federal actions. His administration cut funding for NOAA, denied requests for FEMA dollars for the Lee and Elk fires, and vetoed a bipartisan bill aimed at getting rural Coloradans cleaner water. What would you do as governor to stand up against the Trump administration?
Well, let me say, first of all those examples are things that I have fought for on Colorado's behalf. The Arkansas Valley Conduit, which is the water pipeline you were talking about, that's the very first bill I introduced 16 years ago, and worked with, Lauren Boebert to make sure that the House voted unanimously for that bill, and the Senate voted unanimously for that bill, and now Trump has vetoed it. There is not a politician in the U.S. Senate that has stood up more than I have to Donald Trump. I have fought the appropriations bill that is defunded NCAR by holding up single-handedly the appropriations in the United States Senate. I stopped the other day 90 nominees that came to the floor of the Senate because they had not followed the rules that they were supposed to follow, and we were able to delay that. I have fought the crypto stuff that Trump is using to enrich himself and enrich his family at a moment when Democrats in the United States Senate were joining with Republicans to give them the 60 votes. So I don't need a lecture from our Attorney General about who's fighting Donald Trump, about who's willing to stand up for the families in this state, who's willing to stand up for all of you. There is a difference between signing on to other people's lawsuits and then walking around suburban Colorado saying, I have fighting Trump with my 50 lawsuits. There's a difference between being willing to take on a challenge like to the civil rights challenge that exists today in our school systems in Colorado and across this country, as I did as superintendent and leader of a forum that created more student achievement in that district than any urban school district in America. It's that work, it's that experience that I want to bring to this job. It's not about talking points, it's not about rhetoric, it's about things that we have to achieve together, and I am telling you, if we don't show that leadership here in this state, we are going to lose to Donald Trump again. We are going to lose to Trumpism again. And we will not have delivered the promise that we need to deliver to the generation of Coloradans that is represented in this room.
Thank you, Senator.
Senator Bennet, Colorado has just been ranked the third most expensive in the U.S. to live in, third most expensive state.
Thank you for coming to my talking point. I appreciate it.
With housing costs cited as a major contributor, do you support a repeal on the prohibition on the creation of local rent caps? Why or why not?
Say it again, the real local rent cap.
Do you support a repeal on the prohibition of local rent caps?
Here is what I believe. I think that we have to get to a place in Colorado where no one in our state needs to spend more than 30% of their income on housing. That's what we have to do as a state. We have to build more starter homes in Colorado. We have to create more availability of for sale options for people your age. When Susan Daggett, my wife, who's in the back, and I moved to Colorado, we were able to buy a house here not because we were gazillionaires, but because that was part of a reasonable expectation that people had living in Colorado. Now it is far too out of reach. The only way that we're going to do that is by building more housing. That is what we have to do as a state, and build more diverse housing as a state and put it close to where people work. When I was the superintendent of schools, again, not filing lawsuits, not sitting in the back of an office, in the schools and classrooms of people in our state, I had faculty meetings every single day, and I never met a teacher who didn't live in Denver. That was one of the awesome things about teaching in the Denver Public School. Unlike Portland, unlike Seattle, unlike San Francisco, you can actually live near where you work. Today, it's $650,000 on average to have a house in our state, and no teacher can live in Denver. No teacher can live in most cities in this state, or most towns for that matter. They have to live far from where they're teaching. And I am sorry to say this, but the administration that we have had, a Democratic administration in Colorado, has not helped with the situation. Just as the National Democratic Party has not delivered. And that's why it is such a critical moment for all of us here, especially for all of you.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you.
Alright, this will be the final written question. In 2020, Colorado passed a bill package aimed at holding local police accountable in the wake of the murders of George Floyd and Elijah McClain. Since then, our state has been faced with several instances of police brutality. For example, the case of Al-Moriam, Germany, in Colorado Springs. What are the next steps in protecting our communities, especially our Black communities, from excessive use of force and qualified immunity?
I think that we've seen far too much excessive use of force in our nation, and I think we have to fight back for that at every single opportunity. And we also need to make sure that we are building better relationships in our communities and with law enforcement. I don't think we can give up on the idea that there's going to be perpetual warfare between the two, because for us to be safe, we need to be able to rely on each other. We need to be able to have confidence in each other, and today we can't. So I'll say, in terms of, as I started the conversation that we were having today, with the incredible tragedy in Minnesota, that one of the places where we do have to stand up at this moment is for the immigrant families and immigrant communities throughout our state, many of whom are in my old school district, many of whom are kids and families that don't know the country, but this country, but no longer feel as though they are welcome here in the United States of America. It is hard to believe that that is where we find ourselves in 2025, but that is the cost of losing an election to Donald Trump. And it's why it's so important for us to be able to build a coalition between the people of color that you just described, organized labor, as we talked about here at the beginning of this conversation, our environmental community, and the next generation of Americans, to make sure that we have a powerful coalition that can overcome the division and overcome the chaos and overcome the hatred. One thing we cannot do is give up hope. One thing we cannot do is expect that anybody else is going to arrive to our rescue. The easiest decision I could have made right now would have been to stay in the job that I'm in. But I didn't feel that I could fulfill the obligation that I have, the moral obligation that I have, to my own children and the children that I used to work with in the Denver public schools, most of whom are kids of color, most of whom are living in poverty, without the opportunity to come back here and fight this fight in our state. We're not going to sue our way to more housing. We're not going to sue our way to better health care. We're not going to sue our way to better child care in Colorado. We are going to have to come together to create the opportunity for all of you on a path that no one else in the country has yet created. Colorado can lead the way for all 50 states.
Thank you. We will draw the first of those now with our flawless system.
I'm still waiting for that. Are we doing the raffle again? Yes. Awesome. I'm just hoping I will win.
We have 518-1345.
That is not my number.
Mike was at the conflict of the court. We have a microphone? Yes, 1345.
Kathy O'Bear, I thank you all for coming. The mic doesn't work. Can people hear me?
Yes. We have a second mic.
We got a second mic. Yeah. I join you in many of your broad statements and values. What I'd like to know is real specific things you'll do as governor Trump and all of his people. Very specific actions you will do.
Thank you. Well, let me mention again that there is no one else in the Senate who can say they've taken him on appropriation. There is nobody who can say that they have taken him on his nomination. There is nobody who can say that I've taken him on crypto. I have done all those things. I voted twice to impeach Donald Trump as well. Like, there is no shortage of opportunity for me so far to take him on, and I will continue to do it as your governor. I believe this is the place where that fight is going to be waged. And when I see the governors in places like Illinois and California that are taking him on, I know that is the kind of way that I will approach the job as well. But fighting Trump, in my opinion, and I know not everybody shares this, my opponent spends a lot of time talking about fight Trump, lawsuit. But what we really need in this nation, in addition to fighting Trump, is a vision for what the future is going to look like. What we really need is an answer for the people in this hall and for the kids of the people that are in this union to be able to afford to live in this state, to be able to buy health care in this state, to have mental health care in this state, to have access to early childhood education in this state, to know that they're turning the country over to the next generation addressing climate change. And none of that is going to happen as long as we keep losing to Donald Trump. There's a reason why I was the first national Democrat to say we were going to lose in a landslide after Biden's terrible debate with Donald Trump, because we couldn't afford to lose. And that is where we have found ourselves. And it is with that kind of integrity and that kind of honesty and that kind of guts that I want to be your next governor and take on Donald Trump.
Thank you, Senator. One more audience question for you. This one, because we drew 2 tickets last time, is going to come from 518-1349. 1349. Anybody? Going? Come on, we're going to spin again. We have 1354, 518-1354, and you're well positioned.
4, yes. Well, first of all, I wanted to say how much I appreciate all the work you've done in the Senate and everywhere else to both advance the future of everybody and also fight Donald Trump. But I had one specific question about a policy that you advanced when you were superintendent of Denver Public Schools.
Yes.
So you introduced a form of merit-based pay for teachers, which is incredibly controversial, especially amongst teachers' unions, including unions that my parents have been a part of as educators in Colorado. If you were governor, would you continue to support merit-based pay as a education policy?
Thank you very much for that awesome question. I would not support the approach that I took before, but that is not the same thing as saying that I regret taking the approach that I took before. And I do want to say something about our public education system. My opponent says that he wants to appoint a commission to figure out what's going on with public education in our state. I think we know what's going on with public education in our state, which is that Tabor is strangling our public education system in our state. We are not paying our teachers a living wage in this state. And the kids are not graduating from high school able to propel themselves into our economy. Those are the issues. We don't need a blue ribbon commission to figure that out. That's what we need to do. And I will not apologize for the work that I did to try to lead reforms in the Denver Public Schools, because among other things, we drove considerable achievement for the kids in Denver. I believe one of the fundamental civil rights challenges for this nation is the deep inequity of our public education system. I think that we have ignored that to our peril, and that the kids in this country deserve us to provide them a 21st century system of education, not one that was designed in the 17th century. And with respect to teacher pay, let me be very clear. We have inherited a system that discriminated against women and said to women, you have two choices. One's being a teacher and one's being a nurse. So come teach Julius Caesar every year for 30 years of your life, because we're not going to ask you to do that anymore. That is not the world that we are living in, but that is the pay system that we still have for teachers. If you elect me governor, I guarantee you we will lead this nation in terms of the compensation of teachers in the United States of America. And I deeply appreciate your question.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Everybody get another round of applause for General Weiser from somewhere, which I presume somebody knows, and we will then ask him many of these same questions.
In the meantime, could we please get a huge round of applause for
Again and again and again. I know some people have said lawsuits don't matter, hypothetically, maybe even in the last couple hours. I got to tell you, for transgender Coloradans, they matter. That's why we've had gender affirming care. For Mariah Washburn, that firefighter whose job was illegally taken away and then restored because of our lawsuit, they matter. For kids dependent on education funding at this crucial time that this administration's attacking public education, and we got money back for those kids, these lawsuits matter. There's a reason that 4 former attorneys general, now current governors, Josh Stein, Josh Shapiro, Maura Healey, and Bob Ferguson, have all endorsed me to be Colorado's next governor. Because there's never been a time when being an attorney general was a better preparation to be governor than right now. And so as governor, I'll bring that knowledge of the law, that training, that moral clarity, and make sure that we stand for the principles that we believe in and fight like hell for them.
All right. Colorado has just been ranked the 3rd most expensive state in the U.S. to live in, with housing costs cited as a major contributor. Do you support a repeal of the prohibition on the creation of local rent caps? Why or why not?
How many of you here are renting? All right, decent number. I understand the instinct behind this proposal. I don't think it's the best way to address the concern. I want to tell you what I think the best way is. It's work I have been doing and am very well positioned to keep doing. There are lots of landlords out there taking advantage of all of you who raised your hands. Junk fees mean that when you see something advertised, let's call it $2,000 a month, $1,500 a month, you stop looking, you go to sign your lease, and then you're told, oh, actually, it's not $2,000. There's a, I'm not making these up either, a package delivery fee. There's a collective maintenance fee, and so on. It's actually like $2,800, and you're like, WTF? How is it possible that they're deceiving me? So I've taken on these corporate landlords in court, stopped this practice, got money back to people. Anyone here from CU Boulder? 4-Star Realty, ring a bell? Yes. I took them on, got $1 million back to Coloradans who were taken advantage of by junk fees. Let me tell you something else they're doing you may have heard of. They're using these algorithms to set rents, and in Denver, it's $136 a month more for rent because they're colluding using these algorithms, exchanging private information. I'm suing about that too, and thank you. I pushed and we got passed a law banning junk fees. I'm now pushing a law banning this illegal collusion through algorithms because renters deserve to be treated fairly. And I want you to know I've got your back and I will always fight for you.
In 2020, Colorado passed a bill package aimed at holding local police accountable in the wake of the murder of George Floyd and Michael Floyd. Since then, our state has been facing several instances of police brutality. For example, the case of Elmore, Germany, and Colorado Springs. What are the next steps in protecting our communities from excessive use of force and qualified communities?
I am grateful that I am here running with a record as Attorney General, because I can, others can say what they would do as governor, and everyone should ask, how do I know you can deliver for me?
I will bring a sense of urgency, state leadership, and partnership to meet our housing challenges. Local governments right now are charging a lot of money on permitting fees. Take this, in Larimer County, parts of Fort Collins, it's $150,000 per home, which means you're not building those affordable homes, you're building mega mansions. We've got to change that together. I've got the plans to do that. Read our Colorado blueprint at philforcolorado.com. How many people here felt it was valuable to hear Senator Bennet and myself? In our experience, in our history, our viewpoints, you all deserve to hear that. I'm very hopeful we'll have more forums like this in the campaign. And I strongly encourage all of you to stay engaged, because I believe in the democratic process and the debate we've got to have answering to you about the future of this party, about what type of leadership we need. The people deserve that. I am committed to, around the state, having side-by-side forums. All of us deserve that. And I want to thank the Colorado Young Dems for delivering on the first one of the vision. I also want to share with you a core campaign commitment that I know I'll deliver on. It's Phil Weiser for governor, Michael Bennet for Senate. There's a bumper sticker out there that captures that priority. Here's the idea. Senator Bennet has 17 years experience in the U.S. Senate. You heard him talk about his important work in the Senate on immigration. We need federal leadership on immigration. He's positioned to provide it. I want to keep him there doing that important work.
Yes, yes.
And that's what's best for Colorado, because I've been doing this important work at the state level. I talked about the work on the opioid crisis, standing up to this administration, our Colorado blueprint, and my vision spelled out in 100 pages through the executive summary. It's easier. But in any event, we've got important work to do. I believe I'm positioned to do it, but I need your help. As I said, I don't have out-of-state billionaire backers, but I've got a people power campaign. We need you to come to caucus. We need you to stay in this work. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate your engagement.
I don't have a mic.
We have a mic up here for you.
That's all right. Thank you very much for letting me come back. I didn't have the chance to close. I just want to finish by saying thank you to all of you. I deeply appreciate your being out here today. You don't need a lecture from me about the importance of being involved, but I do want to come back to your question again, because I get it all the time from people, which is, how do we, keep hope? How do we have hope? How do we have hope? And I do town hall meetings sometimes where people have no hope. I've done more town halls than any other member of the Senate. And people come, and sometimes they've been watching cable TV all day long, or mainlining, their own social media feed, and they come in and they think there is no hope. And we cannot give up hope, because to do that is to disrespect the people that have fought back in even worse times than the time that we're in. And I think about, John Lewis on the Edmund Pettus Bridge, who subjected his skull to the billy clubs for the sake of our democracy. I don't know everybody in here. I know a lot of you, though, through my kids and through the people that I work for in DPS. And I know there isn't anybody here who has any reason to think this country is less recoverable or more corrupt than John Lewis did. I think about the women in this country who fought for 100 years for the right to vote, most of whom died before there was a right to vote, most of whom suffered the kind of violence that we're seeing in our society today, and yet they never gave up. And what I want to tell you is, I'm telling you from a place where I've had the chance to see whether someone else is coming to our rescue. There is nobody else. It's all of us. There was nobody else coming to John Lewis's rescue, and there's no one else coming to those women who fought for 100 years. And I want our campaign to be the answer to your question. I want to ask every single person in here to volunteer to be part of that. And if you're with Phil now, that's fine. We'll catch you later. Because we will. Because we have to make sure that Colorado is a standard bearer for the rest of the country, because the rest of the country needs our leadership, and we can supply it. So I just want to say thank you for being here. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. Let's go win this battle.
Thank you so much.